Thanks for joining us today for our live webinar on setting up staff profiles in ShiftCare. This is a fairly quick webinar, so we'll just take you through setting up those profiles and just giving you a bit of an overview of the staff profile section within ShiftCare. With us today, I've got our Head of Marketing, Cecile Cuminard, Marketing Assistant, Sissy Quinn. Ian's going to be helping me doing the live demonstration a little bit later on. And my name's Andrew Lee, Customer Success Manager at ShiftCare. So in today's webinar, we're going to look at a staff profile overview, just to give you an outline of what's available in the staff profiles. We'll go through the security roles that you can assign to your staff as well, and how to apply payroll settings and setting up teams within the staff profile. And Ian's going to take you through some more advanced options like setting up staff documents and compliance within the staff profiles as well. During the webinar, we're going to have a live Q&A session as well. So if you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom bar, you can ask your questions in there and our team will be able to answer those as we go. And we'll answer your questions live as well at the end of the webinar. So if you've got any questions, please ask through there. Just avoid using the chat because we don't really monitor that during the webinar. So just use the Q&A when you can there. Okay. Let's get started with assigning profiles. So this is assuming you've already set up a staff profile within ShiftCare. So to get to this page, you go to the staff section on the left-hand side, go to list, and that'll list your staff, and then you can access the staff profile from that main menu. So this profile is for Harry. Whenever you set up a staff member within ShiftCare, they're going to be assigned as a carer for security purposes. The carer is the sort of the lowest entry for security that you can have in ShiftCare. So they'll only have access to the mobile app. They'll be able to see their shifts and they'll be able to access client documents as well if you've got that security set up for them. So within the security settings, you've got certain roles that you can apply to staff members. When you sign up to ShiftCare, you'll be the admin. So the admin will have full access to all areas of ShiftCare. And as I mentioned before, the carer has no access to any of the web features that are available. There's 4 other roles that you can choose from as well. So we've set up different roles for different office admin types. So the most common one is office support. So an office support role is really handy for those people that are scheduling, doing rosters in your office. But you don't want them to have access to all of your staff details like their phone numbers and addresses and things like that. So you can set up different roles within the staff profiles according to the security that you want to provide. So to do that, there's a settings section over here you can see on the left-hand side. You can just edit that settings and choose the relevant role from that drop down there. There's also a no access option as well, which is quite handy. So the no access role, basically when that's ticked, it can be used for like STA shifts or short-term accommodation shifts where there's no staff requirement on the roster. So this will basically not put any sort of hours through to your timesheet. So it's very handy for just assigning invoicing to short-term accommodation stays. You can also double book these staff members on shifts as well. So if you create a no access staff member, you might notice that when you double book a staff member, the shift will turn red. So by creating a no access staff member or a dummy staff member, you can assign those multiple staff to the same sort of shift times and you won't get any errors there. So it's really good for like invoicing customers for certain things where no staff are required on the shift. The no access also doesn't count towards your monthly subscription count. So if you've got staff members that are on paternity or maternity leave, for example, and you don't want them to access ShiftCare for a certain period of time, you can turn on no access. That will automatically lock their account off so they can't access via the mobile app. And it'll also free up, as I said, a subscription count so you can put someone else in their place if you like. Secondly, on the settings page on the right-hand side, I'll just go into this a little bit further. There's a few different options that you can choose from. So as we mentioned, the role is the security level access of the user. Teams are for when you assign staff to certain teams for particular clients. Ian will go through that a little bit further in the live demo. Notified timesheet approval is pretty straightforward. When that option's ticked and you go through your timesheets and approve them, for your staff, they'll be notified via the app that the timesheet has been approved. Available for rostering, really good feature. If you've got admin staff and office staff that won't be doing any caring work and aren't available for the rostering, you can just select that and cross it off. And when you go to roster the shifts, they won't appear in that drop down for the carers. So it just blocks them out from rostering when you're doing your rostering in ShiftCare. No access, we went through before, and the account owner is the super admin of the ShiftCare account. So when you sign up to ShiftCare, whoever's created the account will be the account owner, and there's only one account owner in ShiftCare per account. You are able to change the account owner yourself if you want to, but that'll assign it to that other person, and then they'll become the account owner of ShiftCare. With regard to payroll settings appears in the bottom right-hand corner of the staff profile, and this links into your pay group. So in ShiftCare, you've got your account settings and pay items and pay groups on the left-hand side there. So when you're setting up your pay groups for both Xero, Key Pay and MYOB, you'll create pay group settings and you'll name those pay groups depending on the level of pay your staff are going to be receiving. These pay groups are then linked into the payroll settings in the staff profile. So you can just edit that and choose the pay group that the staff member is associated with. So when we transfer the data across to MYOB, for example, we'll use that pay group setting to identify that staff member as a casual level 1, and they'll be, MYOB will work out then what their pay rates are. You've also got allowances. You can set up allowances under your pay items as well. In this example, I've got a first aid certificate, which is a permanent allowance, and I've also attached that to the staff member's profile. So each time the staff member does a shift, they'll be paid that permanent first aid certificate allowance, and that'll also be transferred over into your accounting package once you do that timesheet export. One thing to note with MYOB in the payroll settings, which is fairly important, MYOB uses card IDs, and oops, sorry. The card ID on the right-hand side, you can see here an MYOB set up, and that card ID must match identically to the external system identifier in the payroll settings. So just make sure those two numbers match up. They don't in my example, which is not a very good example, but those two numbers should match up perfectly. Otherwise, the synchronization of the timesheets won't work correctly over to MYOB. With that, I'll pass over to Ian. Ian's going to jump on and do a live demo for us and show us a little bit more about the staff profiles. Thanks, Ian.
Great. Thanks very much, Andrew. That's excellent. So starting with the on the staff list page, you can add new staff. There's a couple of different places you can do that. All leads you to the same place. As Andrew mentioned, if you're creating someone from scratch, so you intend to be no access, you just tick that. And that can be useful, particularly if you're setting up the roster. This allows you to get everyone, get everyone scheduled and load clients and set up prices and pay groups and that, and so on and so forth, before ShiftCare invites your team to create an account. So what happens when you, let's say it's a standard person, we're setting up here. As soon as you create the person, they'll receive an email to confirm their email address and set their own password for the account. So I'll just go ahead and quickly add an example here. As Andrew mentioned, you can set the role for someone. So in this case, Harry will be a carer, but if you had an office type user, you select office user and then the type of role they have. And up in our help articles, if you search for roles up there, there's a really clear breakdown of what the different roles have access to. We can set the date of birth for the person and their address. So for example, the Sydney address. And as you noticed, as you type, the address gets looked up on Google Maps and does an autocomplete for you. That can be particularly useful if you're from the client's perspective when you're setting up staff. Now, when I went to create the user, it's come up with a max subscription limit error. Now that just means that you don't have enough staff licenses. So upgrading staff licenses is very easy from the account setting. You open the subscription page, edit that subscription, confirming all the details here. I'm going to increase my number of staff licenses by 1. And when that refreshes, you'll see the invoicing has changed. I've been invoiced for a new person. So I can close it off and go ahead now and successfully create that person. You'll see in the login, the last login time doesn't have a date set. That's because Harry here hasn't accepted their invite and created a password. The link lasts for 24 hours and then it expires. So if the person hasn't completed that process, then you can resend the invite there. You can also set them a password by going to manage and reset password. So there's an option there. For Harry, I've prepared some documents. So Harry's profile picture, we can change that by clicking up there, drag and drop. You can also have the team do this. So when they log into the website app.shiftcare.com, they'll only see their, assuming this is a carer role, you can set they'll only see their schedule. They can go into their profile and make changes up in the top. So if they get it, they can change their name, date of birth, phone number, and change their profile. So that's a handy way to save you from doing some of the setup. I need to just change the role back to a carer. Now, in terms of documents, Andrew mentioned uploading documents for the staff. So you can drag and drop from your folders. So, for example, the first aid certificate. Great file types to use, particularly PDFs, Word documents, and so on. PDFs can open on phones and other devices, so that's useful for that purpose. So now I can set my category. So I'm going to find first aid certificate and apply that. Whether you can set whether or not the staff member can see that on their app. So we'll say they can view their own first aid certificate and an expiry date. So obviously they'll need to renew that at some point. And we can upload some other files, manual handling, set that to no expiration. And you can see, just as that comes up, whether or not it's visible or not. If I go into the reports, there's 4 different types of reports, and it's all based on the different type of document that you've got uploaded. So, for example, the first aid certificate falls under the compliance section. So if I open the compliance report, I'll do a search for Harry, or you could even do the search within the thing. So we can see here, Harry has his first aid certificate. Now, common thing now is the COVID-19 vaccine certificate. If you need to add that to your account, under the settings, on the right hand side, you'll see a number of different document types, not just client documents, but also the different qualifications, competency, and then the report headings. So here we've got our COVID vaccine certificate already. It's as easy as just typing in and then clicking save. That's one important step to make sure you've got done. And then if I go back to my reports, so let's go back and refresh that, we can see now it's come up again. If I jump back to Harry, our staff member, can upload their certificate, drop that in. And if I refresh the report and search on Harry again, it should be there. It doesn't have a it's an expiry date. So just to do a demonstration, I'll set the expiry date in the past, and I'll just do a quick refresh. And you'll see that it's flagged up as red and having had expired. I can click back through and see the documents for Harry and sort of confirm, yep, that has expired. If they get a new document, a new certificate, you can click Edit Actions and upload the latest version of whichever certificate it is that's expired. I recommend just having in ShiftCare the current certificates, because it can become quite cumbersome to manage when there's lots of different versions of the same file. There's lots of great cloud storage, file storage based solutions out there that'll manage versions and histories of files. So just to make operating and life easier in ShiftCare, I recommend just having the current versions of documents in there. So that's documents. There is also really handy for the admin team to not have to continually check the documents and whether they've expired. You can add staff documents, and if you search in the articles, so reminders, we have a number of different reminders available. In particular, I'm looking here for the expired documents. There's some further down, there's some useful templates here, so you can just copy those, drop that into the template, and using these personalization fields, it'll pull in this case, it would say, our example, Harry, your first aid certificate is due to expire in 30 days. And that email will go out every day to everyone who is, say, 30 days in advance of expiring. If you want, you can add multiple reminders. So, for example, if I put -5 in here, it will be 5 days after having expired. So you can change the wording in the message to be a great deal stronger, let's say. So that's a really helpful way just to stay on top of the reminders. You can add, under the staff, you can add private notes. So, for example, they're studying on Fridays. On top of that, you can add from the scheduler, you can add what days they're unavailable. Now, it would be, I recommend you asking your staff to add unavailability through the app. They've got the ability to do that, and they can add multiple days as well. So under the staff profile, there's a number of other sub-menu items. The communications, this will be any SMS or emails that you've sent the staff member from ShiftCare. And there's a wide variety of different messages. If you are writing, say, something you want to log against that person's profile, if you choose the note option, that will send an alert to the person via the app, and they'll get that. So all the others, for example, in an incident, you want to log the incident, that then gets just stored in their communication history. The staff member doesn't know about that. Timesheets, and timesheets we cover in another webinar, but that shows the shift history. Again, calendars would do the same thing, but obviously in a calendar format as opposed to a list. And then we just jump back to documents there. So that really completes those that topic. Was there any questions we can open up to the floor? Andrew, it looks like you might still be on mute.
Thanks, mate. Sorry about that. You've actually answered every question that was asked. There was a question around adding custom categories to the compliance documents,
Okay.
Which you covered, reminders, which you've covered. There was a question around the ability for staff to upload their own compliance documents through ShiftCare, which I've advised you can't do.
Yeah, that's right. Mostly really shows you get the opportunity to validate that those are real documents, and all the expiry dates are in date and that sort of thing.
Right. Selisa also asked about SMS messages, which I responded to. Do extra cost supply for each reminder message sent?
Yeah, so SMS messages do cost an additional 10 cents. The reminder emails are free.
Yeah. Perfect. Mate, that's it. It was a nice quick one today. So thanks everybody for joining us.